Hello, my friends. Today we're gonna talk about paling the blues. So taking the blues that might be kind of dark, some heavy emotion, some sadness and pain that doesn't just pass like a storm passes, but kind of is perpetually here, or most of the time here. It's like depression, I would say, is, I mean, it depends what we mean by that exactly. But it could be something like almost like a perpetual grief, where, grief, I guess, would be like a longer sadness. When something really serious, there's been some real loss, then it's natural to show symptoms of depression and to, I guess, lose motivation to engage with life, to focus more on, glass half empty sort of thing, to feel a certain numbness maybe, um, and just generally feeling kind of not so happy. Um, and so, and I guess that could then trigger other negative emotions like frustration, which would be a kind of anger, I guess, or anxiety, like, is it coming again? Or I guess, or will I ever get out of this? What if I'm like this forever? But I guess grief would be, yeah, centered around that, like sadness, and loss of motivation and drive and direction, because of some sort of loss, whether that's loss of a loved one or, like, loss of job, or like a leg, or some, or a person, maybe not dying, but like a relationship ending or something. These would be types of grief, I guess. And so depression kind of seems similar, but like just, here longer than it should be, like, where there seems to be no more cause for it, but it's still hanging around, and you can't. It feels like this prison you can't get out of. Um, and so I have dealt with depression in my life. I would say these days I don't so much deal with depression as much as sadness, because I feel like I've made progress to the point where I wouldn't say it's like depression. I'd say it's just kind of normal human emotion. So I'm hoping to share some things that I've learned along the way of how to deal with negative emotion, and I hope you find it useful. And if you know someone who suffers from depression, or just, finds things heavy sometimes, or, the darkness, that kind of can be a bit of an issue, then please, share this with them. Hopefully it'll be useful. Um, and Hey, I'm sure even for myself, this will be useful, just to be reflecting upon these things, and remembering, like, or, always look on the bright side of life. But it's not just that. That's part of it. So what I want to do today is I'm going to play a bit of blues, because we're talking about the blues, um, and paling them towards a shining, white, radiant love, and fulfilling existence. Um, but I want to talk first about, like, practical little things you can, like, right now. What can you do if you're in the thick of intense suffering right now, like depression? What could you do this moment? Um, and then and I think, because I think, there's been times where I've been doing this with myself, or I've been doing it with a friend, or they've been doing it with me, and it's like, oh, these are things that have come up as, like, I've thought of it, or they've thought of it, or someone, you know, um, and or yeah, I've heard of it maybe from a teacher, a spiritual teacher, or from, someone who just said something insightful on a podcast. Oh wow, cool. So I'm going to try and keep it short and snappy, and just give you a bunch of those little things, of as if, like, try this. Didn't really, not really hitting home. All right, what about this? And then secondly, kind of lifestyle changes. So bigger picture, long term stuff that can mitigate, or kind of prevent depression. And then thirdly, kind of like deeper, hitting at the core. So not just managing it or offsetting it or anything, but like fundamentally, like, what is depression? So that'd be kind of like psychological and spiritual, kind of part of, like, striking at the root of the problem. So all right, let's, and fittingly, the light is dying quite early in Ireland this time of the year. It's coming into winter. So, you might have noticed, I don't know if you've watched one of the recent podcasts, uh, by the end of it, it's all looking spooky and gloomy because the light's just ending at like freaking 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. or something. Um, but so we're going to see if we can um, defeat the darkness and bring in the light and live in the light. All right, here we go. Bit of music. I got my string broken. High ain't for me, but I can still get my blues, even if wrong notes are on the way. I got a bucket full of suffering. How about you, man? I got a fistful of dollars bleeding from my hand. But when it comes home at dinner time, I'll be understanding, undermanding in the presence of the Lord. All right. So, let's see. This microphone close enough? It'll do. Was my song good enough? It'll do. One thing, I guess, one important part, like if you're like not feeling good, is just I guess there's kind of jumping to the end even, but it's just accept it, just it is how it is. So, there are many ways of resisting what's happening in life, and so that could be kind of trying to change it. That's kind of fine if you're taking action. Okay, cool, But there's a kind of inner resistance, an emotional resistance where you feel like it shouldn't be how it is, right? And I think if you're feeling like, yep, this moment is exactly how it should be, I don't think you will be feeling bad. I think that's like when you actually accept this moment and you say, yeah, this is exactly how it should be, then you feel good. You feel peace because you're actually aligned with the moment. And you're getting what you want, right? But I think it seems to me that like depression or all kinds of negative emotion would be it requires that you feel that things are not right. And so you might be scared and you're like, oh my God, oh no, something bad's about to happen. And you wish it wasn't there and you're trying to escape it. And or you're hoping to escape it. Or you're angry or frustrated or annoyed or whatever it is, or grumpy, and you feel there's something's not happening the way you want it to happen, and so you're getting angry. Or maybe something has happened that you didn't want to happen, and so you feel sadness or regret or shame or bitterness or resentment or all these different shades of blue, all these different flavors of sadness or suffering. All of that seems to presuppose that you don't accept this moment, that you're resisting it internally. So go with the flow, man. That's one way. You know, if you're suffering right now, uh, it's not to say that you're crazy to be suffering, whatever. Like it's totally reasonable on one level. Of course, it makes sense, but on another level, it is crazy to keep resisting because uh, it's already how it is. We can't change the past. Most things in the present you can't change. All you can't change anything in the past, and the only part of the present that you can change is yourself. In like, okay, moving my body, I can move my hand. Okay, I'm changing the present moment, or I'm speaking, I'm choosing words and articulating them, or I'm choosing how I react to my emotions. Gets us into spirituality. I believe there is some uh, amount of determinism involved in our reactions. A lot of it's just we're on autopilot, but I do believe in free will also. So I wouldn't be like Sam Harris or someone who says no, there's no free will. It's all, but I'd say spirituality, where I think when you're at a deep connection to yourself, when you're really in touch with yourself, you do have free will, and you can choose how to respond to your emotions and your thoughts and your states. Free will can enter. And what is free will? Basically, it's pure consciousness. It is the universe itself, the totality of existence flowing through you, and the thing that created the whole universe can also create whatever kind of response it wants to any particular situation. But that doesn't come from your mind or your body or anything, even your brain, which seems to be the transmitter for these things. But it comes from your soul. It comes from this pure spiritual essence, right? Okay, leaving that aside till the end now, right? But but like you basically, whatever the situation is, go with the flow. You you've been trying to resist it. You've been trying. You maybe didn't realize this what you're doing, but if you're unhappy, then internally you have been at war with the present moment. So what happens if you just has that been working well? If it has, then keep it up. Great. I'm sure you'll reach the conclusion soon. But if it hasn't been working well, then why not try for one moment, or for 1 hour, or for one day, or 1 week, or one lifetime? Try going, let's say for a moment, okay, what if I give up trying to internally offer any resistance or complaints to this thing? Imagine it's like the moment's a little child, and they're going to notice anything you do. They're going to very perceptive to your emotional state. So you can't fool it or them. You okay? Just be cool. Okay, fine. We're cool. No problem. No problem. Present moment. We're cool. you know, do that for a little bit and just like act it. And this is one of these little things you can do right now, right? A little mind hack. Go, okay, I accept the moment, and see what happens. My prediction, if you do it properly, if you actually do it, and it's binary, it's you do it or you don't, If you actually do it, and it's not just you thinking, I tried it and then it didn't work, that means you didn't do it, as far as I can tell, right? So actually doing it, you will find peace. Now, one way to get yourself across the line, so you actually do it, is to just go really excessive, just to make sure, like say someone who's really timid and they need to become more assertive. They don't want to become a jerk, like an arsehole. They want to become assertive, but, a reasonable person. Instead of getting them to just trying to be normal, you might say to them, okay, you're going to be, you're going to have to risk, you're going to have to be a bit of a dick, basically. You're going to have to, like, push yourself. If you're going to be out of balance, make sure that it's to the side of being too assertive, just temporarily. Because at the moment, you're not assertive enough. So you're being walked all over, and then, you're feeling, a lack of integrity and, shame and self-reproach because of this. And maybe you've been trying to find balance, but, every time you think something's like, oh, I should be a bit more assertive, then some part of you goes, oh, no, that would be wrong, right? So, okay, you got to be willing to risk going too far the other way, temporarily. And then after a year of this, maybe, oh, actually, you're kind of being a bit of a jerk more than you're being too much of like a spineless jellyfish. So actually now it's the other way. Okay, go back, try to find balance, be less assertive now or whatever, right? So temporarily people might need to do that. I would say, just as a temporary hack, pretend that whatever is happening is actually what you want. So, and of course, that's not what you want to hear when you're suffering, and there might be good reasons for it too. Someone may have died. There may be things that are stories or situations which maybe kicked off some of the momentum of this negativity. And then maybe you can see that partly it's kind of self-perpetuating. There's a momentum to it, but and that your own hand is involved in it, perhaps, or like you're getting tangled up in your own mind. But so just pretend, just try this out, right? Like, okay, oh, I'm depressed, and I'm not being my true self. I'm like cut off from those around me because I don't want to be with people because I'm just a bummer, on just dead weight on the situation, lowering the vibes. I feel awful. Good. Just say, yeah, good, perfect. This is what I want. Thank you, universe. This is exactly what I wanted. Wonderful. Right? And, have you tried that? Probably not. I don't think it's not a very normal thing to do, right? But go, okay, oh, I can't get out of bed, you know, I just, have no motivation. Everything just seems so alien and pointless and numbing and just claustrophobically meaningless and just sad and bleak. Good. Just talk to yourself. Even if you don't believe it, just say the words. Out loud will probably have more of an impact, but you could say it in your head too. Just go, oh, just tell yourself, self-positive self-talk. Oh, good. Yes, excellent. This is exactly what I want. Wonderful. So, good. I'm in bed. I'm feeling awful. I feel like a Dementor from Harry Potter. Okay. Perfect. And just kind of sit with that emotion or that thought of, yeah, excellent. Good. And let me know if it works. What it has done for me at times in the past is it's almost like a spanner in the works, It's just like putting a nice thick metal pole straight into one of these cogs of the negative mind and just click. What? Oh, you're no longer resisting, so the whole thing kind of falls apart. Even though you don't actually want to be depressed, that doesn't matter. You do want to stop this machine of negativity. So in a way, it is authentic what you're doing. It doesn't matter. You don't need to be, look, the mind plays all kinds of tricks. So we don't have to play fair all the time either. Whatever gets the result, So talk to yourself and say, oh, not just accepting the present moment, but welcoming it. Saying, yes, perfect. Inviting it in. Yes, come. Exactly. Like this. Oh, I've been in bed I can't get out of bed. I'm utterly depressed. That's pretty good. I mean, I wish I had no legs also, that would be even better. Of course, that's a horrible thing to not have legs, right? Like, I haven't experienced that, but we all have our own limitations. But you get my point, no disrespect to anyone who's suffering. You have my full compassion and respect, From my point of view, you're a warrior. You're a spiritual warrior engaged in an honorable, holy quest to revive your soul and reawaken yourself. It's a mystical, beautiful, noble journey. That's how I see you if you are suffering. And I believe everyone is suffering until what you could call awakening or enlightenment, or as the Buddha called it, the end of suffering, which is basically where you stop trying to resist the moment, and then it all ends. Basically. That seems to be the way it is. But so that's one thing to try, right? Just saying, yeah, this is exactly what I want, And then with time, you might notice, wow, I get this feeling of peace and kind of like clarity and a connection to my heart a bit more. Like I feel kind of like there's a bit more meaning in life. The color returns a little bit to the universe. Humor, maybe a little bit of humor returns. Humor is an amazing thing. That's another thing to mention. I guess we'll talk about that next. But and then with time, you may be able to just say, okay, just go straight to just accepting the moment, non-resistance, acceptance, surrender, embracing. These are all allowing. These are all words for the same thing, Oneness, being one with the moment, accepting this moment fully, um, and being in alignment with life. So, or you could say riding the wave, going with the flow, letting it happen, let it be. So, yeah, but in the meantime, you can use that kind of overdoing it just to be safe. There's no harm in going too far, right? The danger is not going far enough to crossing the threshold of actually accepting. So just go whole hog out of, just to make sure you get across the line. All right, next thing, humor. So laugh, even just pretending to laugh. Like those laughter yoga things where there'll be some guy who goes, ha, 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 ha. And then you'll have all these people in a circle and they'll be like, oh my God, this guy's laughter is ridiculous. And, they might kind of like have a little half chuckle and they're kind of mildly amused. And then there might be someone who's trying to laugh, but they can't really do it and they're frustrated. Oh my God, I can't laugh. I can't even laugh. But then, a few people start genuinely laughing, like, this is so ridiculous. What are we doing? And then someone else laughs at that laughter and then that laughs. And then the person who's, oh, I can't laugh. It's just the wave just takes them up, and it's not even coming from within them. It's coming the vibrations from outside them, and suddenly they're in resonance, and everyone's laughing. And then the person who was unable to laugh, they might start leading it next. They might be so relieved to be accessing this energy that their laughter is the purest of all, and they lift everyone else up into greater laughter. And laughter is like just such a pure, beautiful vibration. Your thoughts, when you've just been laughing, good luck being depressed. It's not possible. It's complete polar opposite energy. And yeah, largely it is about energy. It literally feels like low vibes and high vibes, high vibration. You can feel it. And then, yeah, seems to be like that way anyway. But yeah, so humor. So you could, if you're depressed, all right, or not, just not, no, not depressed, but just even just feeling blue, having a blue day, right? So put on some comedy, watch some comedy on YouTube or something, something, and keep note of, good stand-up comedians or whatever, just, okay, have like a little list in case you can go, oh yeah, what are they? Or in a Word document or something and go, oh yeah, have they got anything up recently? Looking on YouTube, whatever, find some stuff. Or, yeah, even just yourself, just, I mean, if you want, just try to just laugh, fake laugh, like, although that might make you start crying if it's not working. It might feel almost like pathetic, like, oh, what's going, what am I doing, how am I? But oh, maybe flowing tears can be useful too. I mean, if you're always crying and you feel like you're still in a rut, then maybe, okay, try to not cry. Maybe that would be the more balanced thing. But I think there's a lot of people where any kind of emotion flowing would probably be positive, where it's the numbness is the real danger and the real kind of heartache. So crying can be very liberating, and boys should cry too. Watch a beautiful movie. Watch Dead Poets Society or something, or yeah, so many movies where these beautiful parts. Or Once Upon a Time in the West. The guy looking deep into the puddle. Anyone? You with me? Poof. Yeah, longing for the promised land. So yeah, humor, and in general, just trying to laugh as much as possible. That's like a very direct method, I think, that would, I guess, be a lifestyle thing. But yeah, more general. All right, so humor and hang out with funny people if you can, and yeah, and just with yourself, just like try to laugh at your suffering. Go, oh my God, this is what a crazy situation, and try to approach it with humor. And that humor is very close to wisdom. All the very wise, very peaceful people, you will notice almost all of them are kind of like laughing half the time. So it's no coincidence. And yes, so let's see what else. So we talked about just go with the flow. And yeah, looking on the positive side of things, is the glass half full or half empty? Obviously these are some simple things, but well, it's both. Which one do you want to see it as? I think for many people, we have this habitual tendency to focus on the negative, and I think evolutionarily that makes sense. That if you're like, oh, what a beautiful forest, and you don't notice the tigers coming to eat you, then you're not really going to pass on your genes. There's probably a bunch it seems like through millions of years, there were people who were more like this and weren't careful enough, and they just got taken out of the gene pool by tigers. Thank you, tigers. I hope you enjoyed the meal. And yeah, too bad to our brethren who got chomped up in some vicious end. Doesn't sound too fun. But then you had all the others so that's a selective pressure, making people pay attention to potential problems. Wait, whoa, is that a tiger over there? Oh, no, it's just grass. Okay. What about that? You know, that's very useful. And if you're going to have, what's the danger of having that too much? You're a bit stressed, right? What's that? What's the danger of not having enough? Enough. You disappear. Your whole lineage is gone. No more babies. So obviously evolution is going to lean massively towards the negative, just in case, just to be careful, right? Just like, you will have savings just for a rainy day, or you should. Yeah, so it seems like that's part of, we focus on the negative. Bad news sells, whatever disgusts people or angers them or scares them or saddens them. That kind of, if it bleeds, it leads thing works very effectively. You can see that we gravitate to the negative. Apparently, psychologists have done stuff where it's like experiments where people, something like it, for every 6 positive events, 1 negative event can like balance it out in your mind, where you feel like, oh, it's been an okay day, 6 good things happened, 1 bad thing happened, and you kind of feel like it was pretty evenly matched, negative to positive. So we do focus more on the negative, because I guess the positive would be symptoms of, yeah, everything's working great, cool. Negative, uh-oh, chaos, potential to destroy everything. We got to pay attention to it. So it makes sense if we focus on the negative. However, there's constructive focusing on the negative, and then there's just pointless focusing on the negative. And I believe in the current world, it seems we're definitely way too focused on the negative. And you go, oh, okay, I just don't know if we're going to be able to, whatever it is. I need to save up money for this thing. I've got a deadline. There's only 10 months left, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. Well, thinking about that's good for a little bit. Okay, what can I do? Because it's going to, rather than just hang out playing Nintendo, you're going to go, oh, well, what do I do? Oh, I need to get a job. Okay. Is this job enough? Do I need a second job? Or do I need to ask for a pay raise or pay rise? Yeah, etc. A raise. Huh, interesting. Pay rise? A raise? So, yeah. Practical emotion is meant to be a messenger. It's meant to tap you and go, hey, Telegram, start working. And you go, oh, okay, got it. Thanks, fear. Yikes. Good point. I need to start working. Then you start working, and you get a telegram from Pride going, you're doing a good job. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you, Pride. Good. And then maybe get a telegram from exhaustion, being like, hey, you're working too much. You need to chill out a bit. You're burning the candle from both ends. You go, oh, exhaustion, is that you? Okay. Yeah, good point, I guess. So emotions, they're meant to help us live in balance and send information and kind of focus our mind. So it goes, focus our mind on the situation, and then we can think about it and solve it. So emotions are kind of guiding the mind on this deeper level. Like situation generates an appropriate emotion, and then that guides the bandwidth within which our mind is going to start thinking, and the kind of thinking we want to do, I guess. But often we think about things and we take, even if we, so the first thing, be practical. Okay, what do I need to think about? And with that, it's what can you control, what can't you control? If you can't control it, don't think about it. Think about it once and go, okay, yeah, these are some things. Just so they're not invisible, you're not repressing them or like running from them. Acknowledge their presence and go, can I control it? No, I can't. Okay, next. It's gone. That's it. Done. I can't control it. It's not my business. Not only am I not required to think about it because I can't control it. It's like, no, you should think about it. No, you are not required to think about it. You don't have to, because you can't control it. So what's the point? There's no need. But not just that. It's not that you're not required to do it. You are required to not do it. You must it's not you don't have to. It's actually you must not. You must not think about these things because you're wasting your energy. Your energy is needed elsewhere. You owe it to yourself to make progress. And, there are many other people suffering like you. And, you know, it, they also, the more you improve yourself and that's why it's such a noble quest. By pulling yourself out of suffering, you help others do the same. And that's love, And it might begin as being like well, I guess I can make progress out of depression if I want. I don't know if I really want to. I don't know if it matters. Everything's meaningless, isn't it? It might begin as a can. And then it might move on to a should. No, I should do this. This is the right thing to do. Then it might move on to a must. Like, actually, this is my purpose on earth, purpose in life, So, yeah. So don't, focus on the things you can't control. And then you go, okay, well, then there will be many other things where you go, okay, can I control this? Oh, yeah, I can control this. I can control this part of it, maybe. Oh, there's a situation, these people, I want them to like me. I don't know what's going on. Well, I can't control how they feel or think about me. But I can control what I say to them. And I can control how I feel about them and how I act in relation to them. Okay, good. Nice. Okay. So what can I do there? And then you might think that might be useful to think about what you can do without this situation. Or you've got some problem. What can I do to deal with the problem? Focus on what you can do, what's in your control. What's out of your control is just going to suck resources. So then you won't have mental resources to think about, to actually apply to the things you can control. So that's one thing, right? There is a place for, thinking about problems and negative things and being practical and going, okay, what can I do? Making some plans, maybe write them down. Writing's very good. And in general, journaling, that would be a thing you can do right now. Start journaling, right? It'll help you. It gives you more perspective on yourself. It's like you see yourself as a character in a book, and there's a bit more distance between you and the character, and that's kind of, apart from actually being kind of spiritual, like that's your soul waking up outside of your ego. It's also just in general, like for whatever reason, it works. It helps you think things through, right? See things clearer, and have it all on a page, and you can reread it 10 times if you want, and kind of have this assisted memory where you can really focus on things and see the weak points or see the things that don't make sense or see the room for progress or whatever. Yeah, okay. Something I want to come back to. What was that? Okay, whatever. It'll come to me. So focus on what you can control. But then, okay, once that's done, it's done, And so there's a place for negativity to help us focus on, and to be skeptical. Is that actually going to work? And you got to be honest, You don't want to be like dumb. But then, when in doubt, lean towards positivity. Yeah, it'll be fine. It's going to be good. It's all going to be fine. Just why not? Just lean towards, and not just that, but just appreciating what you have, and in general, seeing things in a positive frame. One thing when you're on, say, psychedelics, psychedelic drugs, what happens is you can't have a bad trip if you go with the flow, right? So if you basically say, okay, whatever happens, good, I'm going to go with it, make the most of it. You can't have a bad trip. You can't have a freak out. But people often do. I don't know if it's how often, but many people do have bad experiences. It's very famous, right? But that is always, you're resisting it. You're trying to control it. You're not accepting it. You're fleeing from the awareness. And demons, things that you kept locked up, and then now it's revealed in front of your eyes, and you try to control it, try to run away, try to pretend it's not there, whatever. Try to lie to yourself. And but if you go with the flow and you focus on the positive, and go, okay, it's all right. It's good. It's actually good. All these things are teaching me. I'm learning. It's good. Then the positive energy snowballs, and suddenly it's just out of control. Just wonderful joy. But the reverse is true. Like if you try to control things, or you go down a negative path, it can get out of control very quickly, and it gets progressively harder to get back to the light. But if you go down the light, it gets progressively harder to go to the dark. So once you get past that gravity, you're in space, you're cool, you're flying around, Um, and then maybe you come in to check out Earth. Oh, what's going on there? Oh, I get pulled into the gravity, you know. And maybe once you got control, then that could be very good for you to intentionally go towards the gravity of certain traumas and things and investigate them, but try to keep, yourself elevated enough. Anyway, but in the reason I mention this is that actually in normal life this is happening also, but it's just because you're not on this powerful chemical that opens up the mind for purposes which allows spiritual evolution on an accelerated timeline. It is still happening where you focus on the positive, you get more positive. Focus on the negative, it balloons into more and more negative. And so, but it's just less noticeable. But so that would, goes back to go with the flow, But focus on the positive, go with the flow, laugh, have humor, all right. Determine what can you control, what can't you control, and think about things you can control. Once it starts getting repetitive, okay, stop. Like me talking now, maybe. Go, okay, good, we got it, Let's just get back into the present. And this is probably the biggest thing. It's just negativity is in the mind. So this is the next thing. Just come into the now. There's go with the flow and all that. This is another way of saying the same thing, basically, but maybe it'll work better for you. Enter the now. The past is dead. The future isn't born. These things don't exist. Maybe they exist in some sort of timeline thing that we could travel through time. I don't know. I haven't seen any evidence because I've never been in the past and I've never been in the future. All the moments that I call past, they were now when they were happening, right? Every moment of my life so far has been now. And every moment of the future will come as now. So you actually only live in the now. You only have one moment that you can live in, ever. And it's just an abstraction mentally, which calls it past and future, memories and anticipation. But whenever you think about them, it's happening now. That's a little virtual reality in your mind now. But your brain is in the now while you're having these memories or anticipations or imaginings, And so it's actually always now. Even these memories of the past are being watched now or experienced now. So get deeper into the now. Go and the mind, all the negative. There's a certain element of physicality and physicalness to the depression experience, I suppose. But mostly it seems to be a mental thing about negative thoughts and narratives that lock us up in these frames of, suffering. So get outside your mind. So there's two ways to think of it. You could say stop thinking or enter the now. So end time or end thinking, end mind, which are two sides of the same coin. Because there's no time when you're not thinking. If you're just here, what time does the tiger think it is? It's it's now. Mr. Tiger, what time is it? Oh, Mr. Tiger, no. Leave me be. I just wanted to know the time. It's now. And then he, eats you. So enter the now, and the thinking stops. Or, with practice you could, so what does that mean? Focus on what's around you. Look at things properly. Instead of just thinking about things, actually see them. Notice, oh, look, there's some superstructure of protons, electrons, and neutrons, which my eyes are perceiving as blue. That, book, I don't know who wrote it, but I hope it's a good book anyway, on the shelf there. It's a book. But if I zoom in on it, it's like some huge skyscraper, Death Star monstrosity of protons, electrons, neutrons forming, like carbon and different elements which are strung together in this matrix, which was, a tree and then got turned into paper and then mixed with dye, which came from other substances, and is also, protons, electrons, and neutrons, but in different configurations, thus causing a different appearance of color, texture, shape, form, substance, and put together into this, page with the print on it, and it creates this structure called a book. But it's just this, I could zoom in on that and to an ant that's like a skyscraper, and to an amoeba it's even bigger. And if you keep going in, or it could be tiny. If we go zoom out the size of the galaxy, it's just a tiny, smaller than a grain of sand. So, but I can uh, think about this thing as like a physical thing. Look, here it is. Not as book, but just as like universe stuff. There it is. And you can see that directly just in the moment. Okay, just don't label it, just see it. There it is. But that's one trick to get into this that I do is like sometimes is just see everything as like really, really big. like oh Jesus, like this is all these protons, electrons, neutrons. This is what it looks like from the big scale, or whatever helps you. But don't label things, but just look at them, listen, hear what you hear, feel your body. Just tune into your senses, basically, and your breath. This is meditation, basically, right? Getting into the present moment and not thinking, because thinking is always about the past or the future or some sort of imaginary time, right? But it's always a sequence. It's a narrative, right? It's a sequence of if this happens and this happens, or even if it's like, oh, is who's better, the Republicans or the Democrats? That's in to think about that, and necessarily is going to be a bunch of narratives like, well, I guess maybe the Republicans say this, and then they would say that. Oh, that's like a sequence of things. Republican says this, and then people get hurt, and then blah blah blah, or whatever it is. Or people Republicans say this, and everyone's happy. Whatever it is. Anytime you think about anything, you're involving the temporal dimension, time. Okay, so that's enough. I'll to say, come into the now, right? Music can be wonderful at bringing you into the now also. So it can dancing, or, yoga, exercise. So music also, just the beauty of it can be really wonderful. So if you're really deep in the blues, listen to music, listen to the blues, they're channeling all the suffering of those people, the slaves, and just the discrimination of the day, and many other things, just general suffering from life being channeled in the blues, or maybe, who knows what else, like coming from the Irish music, I think fed into the blues, and, all kinds of stuff. There's all the suffering of that's being channeled and alchemized into something beautiful or meaningful, at least. Um, so, or listen to any music. Now, you could listen to sad music and to resonate with you and go, yes, you are seen, you are acknowledged. Life is awful in one respect, Listen to some like sad Joni Mitchell, Cactus Tree, or, listen to Leonard Cohen, The Partisan, or like, I don't know, whatever, like, some sort of beautiful, like kind of sad music, or like Dylan, Tomorrow's a Long Time, or, Boots of Spanish Leather, Grace, like, the song, like, about the guy, who's got married and then killed the next day by he's a rebel or whatever. Sad music, even though you're like, oh, but I'm already sad. Yeah, but it's going to put it into a context of beauty and allow you to feel it. And so that might allow that energy to go away. That might work. I don't know. Let me know. Or just, yeah, let me know if you have thoughts you want to share with me. But the main thing is just try it out, it'd be amazing if any of these ideas could actually help someone to, improve their life. That'd be really cool. So then also positive, emotion, like music, like really beautiful music. Try that as well. Like, because sometimes sad music can be a downer. So you want something really uplifting, or something like, some mad, Queen, really positive, like high energy rock. That might pull you out of the feeling. But sometimes that's not what you want. You're like, no, I don't want that, and you need to resolve this thing inside you. And that sad music could be the just what, the shaman ordered. So there's music, dance, of course, social connection. Like, depression makes you want to pull away from people, and then often it gets worse. So, ding dong, maybe as much as possible, keep connecting to people. That will actually diminish depression. For one thing, if you're around people enough, you'll kind of realize like more like their suffering, realize that we're all suffering, and very few people have complete inner peace. And you might say, yeah, my suffering's worse than someone else, but the rich kid who loses their pony might, relative to what they're used to, the mental anguish that that could cause might be as much as a starving person in Bangladesh who has their food stolen, you know, because they might be used to that, you know, and they might go, oh, happened again. It might really hurt, but it might be similar to that rich kid who's super privileged who's just had their ponies wandered off to the other side of the meadow and they don't know where it is. So, you know, on some level, we all suffer. It's not a competition who can suffer the most or who is suffering the most. We don't know. There's no way to compare who's suffering more, really. Sometimes it's obvious, but in many, deep down, it's kind of very hard to tell. Also, because many people don't want to show how much they're suffering, and being around people kind of remind you of that. And ironically, you know, if there's something, say, to pull me into a higher state of, like, often, like, if I'm in a negative state of emotion, I'm feeling kind of blue. If someone I care about kind of is having a hard time, it kind of boom, immediately pulls me out of my mess, and I'm there to try to support them. And I realize that to support them, I need to be on my own feet, and so I get up on my feet because I have a reason to, you know. So being around people gives you the opportunity for that. And in general, going and volunteering or supporting people. I mean, I know that's like maybe a big thing, like, oh, what am I going to really do that? But look, apparently I didn't do that, you know. But apparently it is like very, very effective at helping depression, is just to go help other people. And that often, unfortunately, it's a bit embarrassing in a way, or it can feel a bit shameful, and it may even feel kind of offensive for me to say this, but there is a narcissistic element to depression where we get focused on ourselves. Because I guess it's almost like the pressure gets turned up so much that we go, okay, I can't focus on anything else. I need to solve this first. And fair enough, you know, charity starts at home, that kind of thing. Like, to be of any use to people, I need to take care of myself first. I need to be, you know, when you're on the plane, put on your own oxygen mask first if there's a problem, you know, before you help others. Because you're useless if you're, you know, if you don't have your own foundation prepared, you know. So that makes sense, fair enough. But the thing with depression is it's kind of like a sneaky thing where I think, yes, you need to take care of yourself in a way before others, you know. But that can be taken in, you know, words have many meanings. It depends how we use them here, but they're signposts pointing at phenomena and, you know, things in the world. But in one sense, it's true, you should take care of yourself first, all that. But often, you know, the solution to depression can be, hey, stop trying to solve your own problem, solve other people's problems. Maybe you've been depressed for a year. Okay, you've been focusing on trying to fix yourself, and maybe it's not working. If that's the case, just, okay, leave your own problem and just start solving other people's problems. Try to help them. And you might find, and apparently many people have found, that, oh, by doing that, ironically, I solved my own problems. My own depression went away when I started helping others. And I think, you know, I believe in individuality and individualism, and I think that's a beautiful part about Western culture. But it's also one of the negatives of Western culture. Is you need to find the balance between of individuality. Individuality is a virtue, but you could say narcissism is a vice. And I would say also, what would be the the vice on the other end? What would you call that? Being a sheep, shepherdism, you know, like just not thinking for yourself and just being part of the mass. I think that's a vice. That's one thing. I don't think it's very healthy. I think you need to be able to offer your true self. You owe that to everyone around you, and you can, you know, you can try to be like them and all that. But I think it's just you're on a deep level. I think you'll be happier if you allow your own uniqueness to shine as well, you know. And also, you know, there's problems like politically and things when you have totalitarianism can exploit mob mentality, that kind of thing. So a buffer against that has always been this individuality and willingness to speak your own truth. And we discuss things, we have different ideas, diversity of viewpoints is very healthy for a society. So that's one reason also why it's good. But to get back to the point, so individuality is great, but yeah, that's one thing you could try. Perhaps trying to just don't even try to fix your own problem. Like I'll help them, my friends, whatever, after I deal with this. No, maybe flip it. Try flipping it. See if that does anything, and go. And because you might find like that, like, oh yeah, helping these people made me happier, and then I can go and finish off. I now have a bit more motivation and energy and clarity and calm to kind of deal with my own stuff. Or you might find there is no my own stuff. It's all gone. I just wanted to focus more on others, and I was a bit out of balance maybe. Maybe I'd taken this kind of individuality from the society down the wrong way, and in many ways it is taught in a bit of a dangerously narcissistic way with celebrity culture and all that, consumerism and all that. So, okay, so let's see, what else? Do things, okay, so right now, if you're depressed, what else can you do? So we talked about just music, dance, exercise. So exercise also physically will make a big difference. So it'll get you into the moment. So it'll get you out of your head. So that's very good. You can just get up and go, I don't want to exercise. Doesn't matter. Just see what happens. Put on some shoes, put on some shorts, shirt, get your keys, go for a run. Maybe listen to music if you want or whatever while you're doing it. And even if it's like a 2-minute run or whatever, a 30-second run. Okay, good. Do it. Good. That's better than a 0-second run. All right. And then tomorrow, do it again. Maybe do it a bit longer. And just see what comes of that. But apart from getting you just anything, and that's the other thing, doing anything, taking any steps shows like, okay, I'm trying something. There's some change, there's some movement, better than just staying in bed, And if you think like, oh, what's the point? Here's another thing you can do is instead of, if your mind's like, what's the point? Go, what's the point in asking what's the point? Just turn it back on itself. And then you go, let's just do it anyway, Or even just don't, if it's like, what's the point? Just go, doesn't matter. My intuition says, just do it. Just do it anyway. Why not? If you're not really happy, and anytime you have an idea of changing it, you get this idea of like, oh, what's the point anyway? It's like, okay, maybe it's actually not useful. Maybe I don't need to know what the point is. Maybe I can do it, and then worst case scenario, I do some stuff for like a few weeks, and I realize, yeah, the mind was right all along. There's no point. Great. What's been lost? Nothing. If there's no point, then nothing was lost. Or I do it, and the fog clears just a little bit, and I see the point through the fog, and I realize that the mind was sabotaging me. And this is a thing, like, it does seem sometimes like the mind is almost like intentionally lying to us and sabotaging us. Because you are not your mind. Your mind is, it's more like your secretary, from my point of view, I would say. And that's more spirituality. We'll talk about that at the end. But there does seem to be this element where it's not so much, you could say in a sense it's like we're sabotaging ourselves, and maybe there's some truth to that as well. Or it seems kind of like perhaps it's more like there's this parasite almost. Like it almost seems to me like the mind, when you're observing it, it's like part of you, or it's like an organ, if you're like a mental organ, or it's like a servant, or it's like a child or something that's helping you out or something, and I'll help you cook, Papa, or whatever, whatever it is, however you want to think of it. It's like part of you, or it's separate to you, but it's not you in the throne room, right? That's the soul. And yet it seems like when we're not properly watching it, it goes AWOL, and it causes problems. And so it's all about mindfulness, being aware. Again, we'll talk about that later. So, okay, what else can we do right now if you're depressed? Playing music is also very, very good, apart from listening to it. So, but exercise physically, like when you go running, did studies, I think, where they got people to run for 20 minutes a day. And after like 6 weeks, their prefrontal cortex had grown in mass, I think. Like there were new connections between neurons in the front of the brain, the part of the brain which controls decision-making, willpower, motivation, and basically all the things needed for helping, with depression. The same thing also happened, I believe, with meditation, where they got people to meditate for 20 minutes a day, where basically mindfulness, like breathing meditation, where you just try to pay attention to your breath. Your mind will get distracted, inevitably start thinking about something, and anytime that happens, your goal is just to go, oh, I've been distracted, okay, and just bring your mind back to the breath. Just pay attention. So you're not thinking, you're not thinking about the breath, you're just feeling the breath or being the breath or paying attention to it. And here it is, going in, going out. And then you start thinking and bring it back. And it's kind of like a biceps curl. Every time you do that, it's like one rep or whatever for your mind or your soul, consciousness. And so doing that literally changes the front of the brain and gives you more self-control, which is very useful for depression. So that's, again, more lifestyle thing, but right. But anyway, exercise, very healthy for you. And diet, similarly. So both diet and exercise. I guess that's something, more lifestyle. Okay, so we'll talk about that after. What else can we do? But both of them are connected to depression, it seems. So let's see. Right now, you can kind of play a game and see just, okay, here we are. I'm feeling terrible. And go, all right, let's see if I can just feel positive, right? And just without any reason, give no reason, just skip all that, just jump to feeling positive. Can I do it? And just emotionally try to do it. Hack your system. Only you know if it's possible. Your mind doesn't know if it's possible because your mind is what you're bypassing, right? You're just going straight to the emotion. Can you do it? Maybe. Try it. I think I've done it before, where I was feeling, like maybe as a teenager, feeling kind of angsty. I was like, oh, I feel kind of bad, I was like, and then I think a bit after I was feeling good again. I was like, so weird that it's just, you can just go between feeling good. You're feeling bad and everything seems like it's always bad. And you think, oh, when I was positive, I was just an idiot. I was just missing the point, And then you feel positive and you go, oh my God, everything's always positive. Oh, when I was feeling bad, I was just being an idiot, I was missing the point. And then you go back and forth. It's like so schizophrenic. And so I believe what happened was I thought, okay, I was feeling good. I'm just going to remember this feeling. I'm just going to try and come straight to this feeling next time I'm feeling bad. And I was at the dinner table in Padbury, Western Australia, and like 16 or something, I don't know, maybe younger. And I was feeling bad, like just moody. And I was like, oh, just shift your emotion. And then kind of the challenge of it, like the game of it, was kind of exciting. And I just did it. And my memory is that it worked. Like I was able to just be like, oh, I feel good. So it's just like kind of an emotional shift inside. So maybe you could try that. I don't know if it'll work, but something to try. What else? So yeah, reading quotes, of course, like motivational quotes. Some of them are, kind of bland and banal and like, yeah, okay, whatever. But there's a lot of them that are incredibly potent and powerful. Like, so, there's so many. The man who moves a mountain starts by taking away small stones. Feel free to change man to human being if that feels more poetic to you. Let's see. The greatest gift is health. The greatest wealth is contentment. The best relationship is faithfulness. I don't know if that's a bit more spiritual. I don't know if it hits the same ping thing, but yeah, there's like, or whatever the mind of man. Again, kind of archaic terminology, but I like it. Whatever. Applies to all my sisters too. Whatever the mind of man can conceive and bring itself to believe, it can achieve. All these kind of things, like, and these are just some that pop into my head right now, they can. This might be a window that you can smash into entering peace and exiting, the blues, or poetry. I love poetry. Like, here's a bit about sadness. I'll just very quickly say, kind of unorthodox. This is not really a strategy to just get out immediately, but I'll just add it in. It's part of auguries of innocence. which is by William Blake. Um, but I may have said this in the podcast before, I don't know, but I love it. And the idea is very beautiful and apt for this episode, I think. So recap on archaic English, right? So woe, W-O-E, meaning sorrow, sadness. And what's the other one? Pine, like to pine for something, right? Like you really want it. So it is right, it should be so. Man was made for joy and woe. And when this we rightly know, through the world we safely go. Joy and woe are woven fine, a clothing for the soul divine. Under every grief and pine runs a joy of silken twine. Just the idea that everything is perfect, and that, like, the negativity, no sweet without sour, that kind of thing, no black without white, or, like contrast, that things, if you're always happy, you'd never be happy because there'd be nothing to compare it to, or you wouldn't have that, gratitude for it and the excitement and pleasure of it. Like when you eat cake every day, you don't enjoy it as much, and so, or if you're always sad, maybe you wouldn't realize it, and maybe that's partly depression. It's like there's this, it becomes normalized, um, but the idea, similar to something Marcus Aurelius said also, in meditation, something like this, like accept everything that comes to you woven in the fabric of your own destiny, for what else could better serve your needs? Something like that, meaning like everything happens, it comes flowing in the cascade of your own history and choices, and things coming from outside of you, but that it's all perfectly flowing along, and it all contains a lot of things created by our own imbalances, and so then we can retrace them to learn from our own mistakes or learn from others' mistakes or whatever, and that it's all this perfectly flowing lesson. Now, but when we're in the middle of depression, that isn't really doesn't always resonate, so that's why we're trying to stick with, for now, just kind of immediate things you can do, mental hacks to get out of the depression. So let's see if there's anything else. Sleeping, just sleep on it. Helps a lot, just if you're tired, just go to sleep, just if you can, or take a nap, or just close your eyes, see if you can. You might wake up and just find, oh, all that nonsense is just gone. Great, good riddance. All right, keep it moving, meditation. You just start meditating. Again, that's like a lifestyle thing as well, but just close your eyes. Turn off, just tune into the breath. That's the most direct way out of suffering. Just go into your breath. Just turn off thinking, enter the now. Meditation would just be a more formalized way of doing it. You can do it with practice. You can do it while you're walking around in the street, or you're talking to someone at a cafe. You can just be listening to them, and you can just exit your mind. And in the middle of life, you can be doing this. But to begin with, more easier way is to control the variables. Just sit down, or you lie down, in your room, whatever, and somewhere nice and quiet, ideally. And you can even do a guided one from YouTube or whatever if you want, or not. But you just close, or you could do like a Headspace and Calm. They have like a meditations, or Sam Harris, I think, has some free things on his app, like Waking Up. And so, but yeah, these I did the Headspace ones for a bit, but they're guided meditations. But normally, just do it on my own. You're just silent, and it's a way you close your eyes, just removing all the stimuli from the world, and it's much easier to just be able to, me and my mind, being able to stop thinking. So that will bring you great peace if you try it out. Well, if it works, Now we're trying to give everything because who knows what works for you. Now, what else? Another thing is sois de toi-même. No, sorry, sors de toi-même. Leave yourself, exit yourself. So just imagine, basically, you're someone else. Just go. Okay, this is all getting very heavy. If someone else is like, oh, I'm really depressed. Let's be honest. A lot of the time we're like, oh, well, I hope you're okay. But then, will we be able to maintain that level of interest for more than a few minutes? Probably not. We're like, hey man, I got my own life to deal with. All right, good luck. And so you can kind of do that to yourself. Be like, lose interest in yourself. Be like, well, okay, just imagine I'm some random other person. I've just been teleported into this person's body and they happen to be depressed. Like, I'm not, I don't even care about this person. Why? I'm not going to, oh, they didn't get the promotion. Jesus Christ, I don't care. Like, this person's story's nuts. What are they, and it'll be a bit easier maybe to just be able to get some space and, again, not to belittle problems or whatever, or, all due respect to like people's sufferings and what they want and their dreams, and if their dreams don't come the way they wanted, etc. But trying to just step outside yourself and just get outside your own skin, treat yourself as a stranger, and just make the stranger move around, just like you're playing The Sims, And that can be a way where, if you're not taking it personally, the kind of suffering won't really hit home, possibly, you know. And again, that's not far off spirituality and mindfulness of like, just seeing yourself as, here I am, an avatar for the universe, and that I'm not separate to the rest of life. But so it's kind of not far off that. Or like see yourself as a character in a movie, or a character in a book, or in a video game. Say, here we are, life is a game, let's play, and just, so all of these, instead of seeing yourself as the very serious me that has these problems, just put it in a different light and see if you can work with that. And if you can do that temporarily, that might allow you to a glimpse of like, oh wow, interesting. I was living that. It was me, of course, I was there, but I was just playing this little mental game, mental gymnastics to get outside of myself and see myself objectively and how others see me. Kind of, that's another cool thing. Literally try to imagine how other people see you. And that can be very interesting. And then even while you're engaging with them, instead of seeing them and here's me and here's them, don't, no, focus on how do they see me. Keep that in mind pretty constantly. And you'll probably interact with them differently, I think. You probably go, wow, interesting, man. It's kind of like a different version of me that they're seeing, okay. But that can give you more objectivity and maybe change, just a little shift of perspective that might help you get out of the blues. And anyway, say you've tried some of these things and you notice there's some benefit to it, then you could start to bring that incorporate it, or try to integrate it into just, instead of doing these little mind game things, just be yourself, but be able to feel like a similar way, have a similar behavior. Once you've experienced it by using these mind games of like, oh, I'm in a video game or whatever it is, or, oh, I'm a different person. I'm just, I'm temporarily, had my mind swapped, like, Tom Hanks in Big, I've just been put into this body, whatever. You are nonetheless experiencing life in a different way, and you may not have been able to experience it that way, in a more open, alive way for quite some time. And so that's going to leave an impression. So even afterwards, once you drop those kind of mind games, you might be able to slip into that groove a bit more easily. After, say, a few weeks of kind of doing these things every now and then. And, you can try a bunch of these different, have a bunch of strategies in your arsenal and just try whatever works, day to day, What else? One thing also is using anger. So to kind of imagine like this depression is like a parasite that's addicted to suffering, which is what Don Miguel Ruiz would say. It's literally like a mental parasite. It's the mind. And Eckhart Tolle would say kind of something similar, that, yeah, it is, ultimately it's part of you because it's part of the universe, you're the universe. But in a more, the level that most people think of it, it's actually, no, this isn't you. You're not the mind. You're not the thinker. That's just a bunch of thoughts. You can think, just like you can draw, but you're not your drawings. You're not your, you can make food, but you're not your food. You can make thoughts, but you're not your thoughts. And often, here's the food, here's a drawing, here's a thought. It just comes automatically, and we think it's us. So you are the watcher of your mind. You are not your mind. Anyway, so what was the point there? Practical, let's see. Okay. So we're getting into that stuff later, Jamie. All right. So being able to have these different things in your arsenal. And what was I going to say? Let's have a sip of water. Oh, that's another good thing. Maybe have some water. Good. Drink some water right now. Could help you. Or vitamins also. Taking, especially in winter, take vitamin D. Make a bunch of that helps. There's a thing called SAD, SAD, seasonal affective disorder. So in winter, especially in the northern hemisphere, where it gets very dark and cold in winter, and especially for people of like say African ancestry who've got lots of melanin in the skin, which blocks out ultraviolet light, the sun isn't giving you enough UV to create vitamin D for most people. So yeah, taking good quality vitamin D is a very good idea to try it out. And there's some other vitamins that might work. You might be deficient in some specific thing like B12. Oh, and you start taking it and you feel great. So that's a physical thing you could do right now. It's kind of lifestyle too, but try out some vitamins. Just take a bunch of vitamins, see what happens. There's also the placebo effect. So you might feel great the first time and then later, oh no. But you could try it. St. John's wort, that was, I guess, more anxiety. I used that for a while when I was anxious. But so vitamins or healthy food like chocolate, dark chocolate is full of this really good stuff. Gives you it's like flavonoids and all this stuff. It does give you what's that? Endorphins, that kind of thing. Chili apparently too. So you could try that stuff. Have stuff on hand if the darkness comes. Munch on a bit of that. See if it does anything. But in general, like drinking good quality water. The Wim Hof method is another thing you can do. The breathing like that, and cold exposure. Both of them, it will zap you straight out of your bad state. Now, how long is it going to last? Who knows? But like the chemical changes in your body with the alkalinity of your body rising, and just cold exposure, many other things happening, cold shock proteins and stuff. That is a great way to just change your mental state very suddenly via the physical, because mind and body are interconnected very deeply. So if you get stressed, your body has physical responses. If you get happy, your body has physical responses. Like you relax or whatever, physically, and then also vice versa, right? So if you're changing your breathing, increasing the oxygen levels in your body, that literally creates endorphins and makes you feel really good, and does a bunch of other things that just in general boost your baseline health, and then that can improve the symptoms of depression, because partly it seems depression is brain inflammation. Again, I think it's not just one cause of this, but it seems like many people who have chronic depression, it's actually you're eating too much. This we're going to talk about lifestyle stuff, but too much sugar, and processed carbs. So bread, crackers, pasta, rice. Even rice might be a bit better, but these things get turned into sugar almost immediately in your body. And if you're eating other stuff like basically your body just uses that and turns it into sugar, more or less. That's my understanding. And so a lot of us are eating far too many carbs, and so it's causing a lot of inflammation. And that one symptom of that could be depressive outlook, because your brain literally is inflamed. But then also not just that, and then not having enough, like we said, vitamin deficiency. So eating good food will help with that. So I was going to say not just too much sugar. Oh yes, but like other things like processed foods, too many preservatives or weird little chemicals that have been barely studied. Vegetable oils like avocado oil. That's a fruit technically. And olive oil, fruit. These are all very healthy, very good. So that might even take a shot of that. It might help you, or vinegar, apple cider vinegar and stuff like this is very good for you. But a lot of the vegetable oils, like the cheaper oils, they're actually like kind of, from what I understand, quite toxic to the body. And so that could be causing. So this is we'll mention later, but basically in the moment, not much you can do about that. But in the moment, you can maybe munch on a bit of healthy food that might help you, or drink some water, like me. Okay, what else can we do? So things, yeah, and so exercise in the moment, like running, but also just drop down and do 40 push-ups. Just exhaust yourself. Do as many push-ups as you can until you can't do correct form anymore. Your form is suffering. You can't. You're like, oh, you're shaking. All right. So don't even count them. Just go 1, Just do them in the moment, paying attention to correct form as far as you can tell. You can watch it on YouTube if you want. Just, it doesn't need to be perfect. Just do something. And once you get tired, stop. And then same with sit-ups, or leg raises, or squats. And so you're helping your body, but also that's a lifestyle thing as well. But also just in the moment, you're physically changing your body chemistry. That is going to change your mind, and so that is a way out of the darkness. If you're getting really hemmed in, and it's like the squishy walls from the first Star Wars movie, and you're about to get squished. That's how you feel. Then go drop down and do 40 push-ups. See what happens. It might help. Um, okay. Singing, very good. It's mentioned music, but singing or humming, is very, I think it does something like it activates the vagus nerve or something. It does something where, again, it's like a physical hack by a physiological change in your body, which then changes the brain and will cause mental changes. So, but singing in general just feels wonderful, and you're connecting to beauty and meaning. And so even if it's very, very sad, if I feel very sad, one of the things I do is I play guitar, and I feel like it channels that and allows me to kind of let go of that energy. And if I feel happy, I'll play guitar, and it makes it even happier, So, yeah, it's and then another thing would be just trying to see things in terms of meaning. So say right now, all these problems, try to see it as, okay, if I was, imagine yourself in the beginning of, make it a story so it's meaningful, It's not just this pointless suffering, but go, okay, imagine yourself as the main character in the beginning, of the opening chapters of a movie or a book, and where everything's, all this crazy stuff's happening, but then there comes the build up and the triumphant, climax and whatever, and then the happy ever after, whatever. But you could see yourself as like, the hero of your own story, as Joe Rogan would put it, and so just seeing yourself in the story and wondering where would the story go if it was happy, Now that's another thing. You can try to focus on what you want, as Kevin Trudeau would say. If most people spend most of our lives just focusing on what we don't want, but then you gravitate that towards you, it seems, through the law of attraction. That seems to be how it works. Whereas if you focus on what you do want, and if you have the right energy where you're feeling like good, basically you're feeling like, ooh, as if you've already got it. You're kind of imagining, having it or being it or whatever, then you pull it towards you, seemingly. Whereas if you're like, oh, I hope this bad thing doesn't happen, or if you're like, then you're kind of drawing it towards you. Or even if you're like, oh, I really want this thing. Oh my God, I really want this thing. But if you're feeling the emotion of not having it, then that's what you're putting out to the universe, like not having. So that's another thing. That's a bit more esoteric, but hey, why not? I believe that feels like that's legit. So anyway, what else? In the moment, what can you do? Now, I think there's some other thought kind of exercises, like things just to understand. Yeah, okay, think about this, like your own uniqueness, like no one has ever been like you, no one ever will be like you ever again. You're completely unique. So even if things are all messed up, and even if you feel like haven't met your potential, or you feel like I'm just boring, I'm just not as good as the people around me, and not even, look, let's play, let's go conservative. Let's try to, be real, almost brutally honest here. There are some people who, from my point of view, are less interesting than other people. And maybe among those kind of people, maybe I'm not interesting. Maybe they'll be, he's, I don't know, not interested in whatever he's talking about. And that's cool. I don't mind that. But that'd actually be kind of cool, the thought that I could not be interesting to some people. And then, because I think I'm very interesting to myself, and I'm definitely not interesting to others. Yeah, true. But just the idea that, there are many universes is always quite cool to me. The overflowing bounty of life. Everyone's got a private universe, and we can just peek in from the outside. But that you are so unique that, like, even no matter what happens, you could, even if you were to, even if you are, let's say, just objectively like, oh, just the most boring person on earth, you're still a freaking human being, So that, like, woo, I mean, you're way up the hierarchy of interesting things just by being a human. you know? And the fact that you can even be depressed is insanely complicated, like neurochemistry and electrical signals and stuff. It's just physically, even just being a walking tower of depression, walking around, squishing ants and just being depressed and, having some pointless life, as, your fear might put it, that is still a miracle of life. And if there were no humans except you walking around being depressed, you would be the most interesting thing by far on the planet. So just because there's a bunch of other humans who might be up to quote unquote more interesting things doesn't detract from that. You are who you are, and you're completely unique. And so, and your story is unique, and you can take it anywhere you want. So maybe that will help just to reflect on that. Here's a little poem I've definitely recited before, but just on point, captures that idea a bit. It's called Blessings. Thank you, whoever you are, for the universe you carry inside. Never before or since your life will such a seeing of things arrive in the far fields of happening. It is yours, but also mine, hand in hand for all of time. We will walk as grasses grow, step by step, into the glow. Love is smiling wherever we go. That's it. All right, now practical. Back to the practical. What else we got? Yeah, I mean, look, like just do something that's fun, right? Try anything that you know. But then the thing is, often we don't want to do fun things, so that's why. I mean, when we're depressed, but something that gives you a bit of joy, you could do. Another thing is maybe you have to be very careful with drugs and stuff. But like it's possible that like having a drink, that like you can get addicted to things like this. So you need to be very careful. But it is possible that like just shifting your mind a bit could allow you to get into a different groove of thinking. And if you're very careful, you may be able to make that be useful, like smoking a joint, or drinking a pint of beer or whatever, or taking something else, taking some MDMA or something. It might be able to help, there's a lot of people with PTSD, for example, who MDMA has been able to help them focus on, kind of approach the dark parts of their past and their minds and allow them to resolve the trauma in combination with talk therapy, like psychotherapy, right? So with that, when you could do it with yourself, I guess, but so long as you can talk to yourself, I guess, but it might require, say, a trusting friend who you could talk to do that, or ideally, one day therapists, but it seems like this is becoming legal. Anyway, but yeah, so that is, of course, one possibility, but I think you want to be very careful because, with depression, yeah, it's tempting to try to balance the scales a bit by going, okay, I want some pleasure because I'm suffering so much. But then you want to be careful that those things aren't kind of causing more suffering, and kind of becoming perpetuating system, where you get more and more out of balance, and so you need more and more, pleasure to make up for all this suffering. Okay, so it's getting a bit darker. Let's see. Let's get the show on the road. Anything else to mention straight up? Immediate things you can do. Let's see. Yeah. Well, of course. Yeah. Read books. Did I mention this? And watch movies. Just getting into someone else's story. Stories are very captivating, and we have our own stories running in our heads, and that's depression is largely we're thinking about the negative stories that our mind is cooking up for us. So maybe just getting into other stories. You could try that. Sometimes I know it's not, you don't feel like it, but especially with movies where it's very passive and easy to do. And that could be a way to allow some healing and transformation to come in, whereby these stories, if it's a good movie or a good book, these stories can have lessons that resonate with us and can help galvanize positive momentum in ourselves. Because a lot of depression and anxiety and negative kind of mental states or phenomena or streams or whatever are but just negative momentum built up from. There might be some, say, in myself there was like a few things, I guess, would be like I had a friend pass away when I was fairly young, and that was part of what then I was kind of plunged into like this sort of depression. Or but then it was also I grew very, very close with my friends, so it was a bit of a rebirth, and I was in many ways trying to emulate my friend who passed. Um, and shout out to Curtis. um, but then yeah, I think that kind of opened up like just the angel of death kind of opening up. Oh my God, wait, life is can pass, and like, oh my God, things can happen that I didn't think could happen. So then also it opened me up just to a general reassessment of my intentions with life. And then I was like, do I really want to be doing what I was planning to do? And so then I think, I maybe went a little AWOL, a little too far off the reservation in terms of bohemianism and just trying to have fun. And then maybe that kind of lack of purpose or grounding maybe hurt me more. And then I was, discovering more and more things about the world. And then that was also probably a bit of a problem with anxiety and depression about feeling worried about the future of, the planet and everything, and, my near and dear. So that was to be my personal journey. Those these things, and then a lot of that after that, these things. A lot of it after that was maybe those bad habits of doing certain partying too much, or like not having enough direction in life or whatever it was, or not exercising enough. I don't know, but a lot of it was just this negative momentum of like, oh, these cycle or these processes. The whirlpool had already been turned on, or people had been running around in circles in the circular pool enough where there's just these currents. And then it seems like there was just a lot of momentum I had to deal with. And so I think that is a large part of the depression thing. And it's useful to recognize that it's not like necessarily that, oh, there's these bad situations that are coming up, and, but that a lot of it is actually just an energy that comes and looks for excuses to perpetuate itself. And so that's why it's very useful to step outside of the mind, because that way, if you just feel the energy without thinking, you're actually kind of absorbing that energy. You're kind of eating it, and you're getting stronger and it's getting weaker. But even just not feeding it, the whirlpool is kind of slowing down a bit if you're not running on the ground, getting caught up. Oh, I'm moving, I better run. I don't know what this metaphor is. Who runs in a whirlpool by accident? But anyway, yeah, okay. So anything else straight up that people can use? Yeah, go for a walk. Just go explore. Just go look around. In general, just put yourself out there. Or here's one thing is the comfort zone is not very comfortable. You may have noticed. The comfort zone, if you really pay attention to it, is a place of, well, it's okay some of the time. Yeah, it's great, to be, go traveling and you're outside your comfort zone, and then you come back and you're, that's nice. So there's definitely a place for the comfort zone. But permanently living in the comfort zone is very uncomfortable. Actually, I'm scared of this, or I don't, I just want to stay where I am, whatever. Be comfortable, do the same thing. Actually, it doesn't make you feel very good. So what's the worst that can happen by trying something new and just going outside your comfort zone? Um, at, at the worst case scenario, surely, well, I mean, is it really going to be worse than whatever you're feeling already? So it's probably worth a shot, right? And actually, if you approach things as like, okay, no expectations, no disappointment, just see what happens, and so that might be useful. All right, let's see if anything else. Come like one more time. Is there anything else? Right now, if you have depression. Well, yeah, okay. One other thing is to embody a character. And so you can imagine, like I said, step outside yourself and imagine you're someone else. That's kind of just creating a little separation between you and yourself, and just in order to let yourself be here. But you can also kind of do a different thing. It's a bit similar, but embodying a character, like being like, okay, who's someone you admire? Oh, you admire this king from some TV show that you watch, or this queen, right? Okay, don't tell anyone, but just kind of act like you're them in the situations. Be embodying that character, the way they stand, the way they speak to some extent, keep it subtle, um, and just the way they hold themselves and see things, and just be them, or you like Bob Dylan, all right, be Bob Dylan, or you like George Harrison, be George Harrison, or Gandhi, or whoever it is, or your uncle, your auntie, you know, just act as it, take on their spirit and their energy. Um, and so that is one way where it may allow you to put yourself outside your comfort zone and to try to kick in some of this positive momentum, which can then reset the grooves of your mind. Um, you could also do be Jesus if you want, or be the Buddha, which I guess is what these old religions were trying to talk about. Although Buddhism originally wasn't so much a religion, I would say, as the Dharma, like the philosophy, basically saying, observe the present moment. Do you notice suffering seems to be here? Yeah, we're all suffering. Yeah. Could you also notice right now that it comes from being attached to things? And like, if you just let things happen as they will and control what you can control, but don't try to control what's beyond your control. Do you notice that, like, yeah, there's no suffering. Basically, if you don't try to control what you can't control, same thing as the Stoic philosophers were saying. Interesting. What Eckhart Tolle is saying these days, and all these people. Then, right, suffering goes away. So that, anyway, all right. So, moving on to lifestyle things. Okay, so meditation, yoga, definitely very good for you if you can do it. So these are things where, look, you might not be into it, That's why trying to give these upfront, like, things you can use right now. But then expanding from that, like, longer term, what can you do? Because a lot of the causes of depression are, like, from lifestyle, it seems. So meditation, daily meditation is very good for you, or even just like when you're on the bus or something, just take 3 deep breaths, Just try to enter the now as much as you can throughout your day. If you can bookend your day with, 20 minutes or half an hour or 5 minutes, whatever, of meditation, beginning and end, you wake up, do meditation, before going to bed, do meditation. That'll help you sleep, which will be good for depression also. But also, yeah, that'll kind of set your day in perspective. And so that can help diminish the severity of the bad vibes. And I think in general, the thing is, like, say if you can imagine depression as like a wave when you're going into these dark troughs and then coming up for air and then dark troughs, and even when you're coming up for air, you might feel like, oh God, it's just going to happen again, so you're not feeling that great anyway, but you might feel a bit less depressed. What we're doing is we're trying to increase the height. We're basically trying to move the wave up. So you will still go up and down, and that's fine. That's normal human emotion. But we're trying to make I guess the baseline of the median of the wave higher. So your bad, my bad days now would have been basically my best days at a certain time in my life, and my good days now are like, I never had days like that, like, back at a certain point in my life. So, and you're trying to increase the height, the amplitude and intensity of these positive times in your life, and their duration. Try to make them longer, higher. Yeah, I guess that's enough, right? Longer and kind of higher. And then over time, you can find that the duration. A wave isn't a perfect metaphor because usually it's kind of uniform, but this squiggle, this divine squiggle of your emotion through life, you can. I think the goal, what we're trying to do with these lifestyle activities is, yeah, you're still going to be up and down, and there will be many moments where it will be useful to apply those in the moment techniques just to get yourself out of the gloom, but that overall we can make it easier for ourselves by kind of making this up and down process kind of at a higher thing. So like the worst things are not as difficult; they're easier to deal with. But also that the peaks get higher, and that also in general the high part of the wave, the peaks or whatever, are of longer duration, and that the negatives will be less intense and they will be less lengthy. And so we can do that through meditation, yoga, Wim Hof method, exercise, regular vigorous exercise. You can start with something small, just walking or whatever. But what's very, very useful is, like, being able to do at least sometimes real intense exercise where you're like, oh my God, I'm dying. And that puts you in touch with this struggle, so that then in comparison to that, other things can seem kind of easy. And because it's voluntary, it's kind of like there's a certain pride to it, a certain nobility, a power, and you feel like you're in control of your destiny a bit. So you have a bit more self-respect, perhaps. I put myself here, and I'm doing it again and again. You're a bit like a warrior, and you are a warrior. You're in a war for your own soul, for your happiness, and for your creativity, your ability to live the life that you want and to choose your dreams, and bring them to fruition, and enjoy the fruit, taste the fruit of your own dreams. So yeah. Let's see. Okay, what else? Diet. Yeah. So seemingly a high fat, low carb diet is probably best. Everyone's a bit different. I think diet, there's more like this. We still don't know a lot about dietary science, and there's a lot of conflicting information. The sugar lobby has huge amounts of money. There's a lot of huge corporations like Monsanto or whatever who have lots and lots of money and political influence, and they control a lot of corn and etc. There's a lot of funny business and shenanigans going on with dietary regulations and guidelines set by the governments and things. But basically, from what I can tell, I'd recommend fresh food, okay, like natural food, natural whole foods as much as possible. So, if you can make hummus instead of buying it, make it yourself, Have a blender, put some chickpeas with olive oil, salt, pepper, lemon, blend it up. Hey presto, a bit of garlic maybe. And you have like the best tasting hummus you've ever had, In general, it's very fun to be involved in the creation of these things anyway. And also it can get tiring if you're busy. But in general, especially when you're starting out, it's really, really fun. And but in general, and it'll go in waves, I think, where you can enjoy cooking more, and so long as you're not too busy. And even if you're busy. But cooking, eating good food, right? Even if you're not cooking it, that will help you a lot. So fresh food, natural food, a variety of fruits and vegetables. But meat also, as far as I can tell, is healthy. Like if it's coming from happy animals, right? Like they're eating, say cows that are eating grass and they have a good life, and then they get killed. Some people would say that like the stress on their psyche, it won't be good. There'll be bad vibrations and it's not going to be good. They might be right. I don't know. But as far as I can tell, that's healthy, and basically, believe it or not, fat doesn't make you fat. Carbs make you fat, and sedentary lifestyle, of course, but like too many carbohydrates and so chronic inflammation. So these unnatural, highly processed foods and other ingredients that we're eating, that's kind of the main culprit. So getting rid of the vegetable seed, the seed oils, right, and processed food, and limiting the number of carbs. So, but whatever, find your own thing, but like having probiotics and, nuts and, mushrooms and, fats, healthy fats. So whether it's avocados or meat or whatever, or, take some fish or krill oil. Fish oils, you need to be careful, like, because some of them, just like vitamins, some of them are like quite low quality. They're not very well regulated, or, there's just a bunch of dodgy ones out there because maybe people aren't aware enough yet. So either, we're also not regulating ourselves enough because a lot of people aren't noticing yet. Still, in the process of, I guess, people starting to become more aware, like, okay, vitamins are good, but yeah, you need to actually pay for one of the more expensive ones, because otherwise it's kind of pointless. Like, you want good quality stuff. You want real stuff, not something that says it's the vitamin and it's actually something else, or it's only got a little bit of it, or it's gone rancid, so it's actually not good for you. So, krill oil, though, if you are, looking to make some dietary changes, krill, like what whales are eating, whatever, they have these DHA and EPA in them, but it's from Antarctica, which is, as I understand it, a very sustainable source of these things, and also very unpolluted waters. So they might be a good one, and I think it's more bioavailable because of something. But anyway, any kind of good fish oil could be good too. So, but I'm not an expert on this, so do your own research. But um, lifestyle. What else? Sleeping enough. Sleep is huge. Sleep as much as you can, um, and 8 hours a night or something or more. And you can, if you find that hard, then try to if you get sleepy in the afternoon, take a 15 or 20-minute nap. Um, okay, and which will help. Even if you don't fall asleep, it'll help you like flush out. I think the cerebrospinal fluid can kind of get in and flush out what's it, amyloid beta plaques or something like this, or like kind of dead cells or something. This kind of stuff. Like, so when you're sleeping, your brain is kind of getting flushed out of like the detritus, and there's many other healthy things going on, regenerative processes. But so definitely overnight, but also napping can help. If you find it hard to fall asleep, look at this hypnosis things on YouTube, whatever. That wouldn't be the first way to. First thing would just be, a few little, like I would say breathing meditation is the best way. Or sometimes I'll be like, just I don't even want to go to sleep. I just feel so comfy. I just want to be here and be comfy in the moment. Oh, how good does it feel? Because that's me in the morning, and then I can fall asleep really easily. And it seems to work sometimes. I'll just focus on being comfortable, and then I'm asleep suddenly. But yeah, anyway, any other health, lifestyle things for depression? Yeah, social, being in contact with people, of course. Having plants is good. They make you happy just seeing plants, but then also, if you're not taking care of yourself, you'll notice because you won't be taking care of your plants, and you'll be like, oh, my plants are kind of looking a bit messed up. Oh, I need to take care of these things, otherwise they're going to die. And probably you'll have a few plants die, and you go, oh my God, I killed this thing. Huh. And then that's vital feedback for ourselves, to see that, oh, okay, am I not doing the same thing to myself? So yeah, plants can be great for that. If you have a garden, then it's even better because you can grow food. And you can even grow some food inside. But so that would be good. Part of the lifestyle. Have plants. What do you do? What are your hobbies? I have plants. Playing music, I mentioned. Anything else? Yeah, social media. Don't do it. Yeah, going easy on the social media and general internet stuff and the news. Oh, that would be one thing. I don't watch the news. I research things as I find them coming up, and I'm building up my picture of what has happened in the past, and I'm always adding to it and understanding more and researching things, and I'm very interested in what happened in the past and what's happening now and what's probably going to happen in the future, and I'm very interested in history and motion, which is what all this is. And I will, think something happens. I hear from someone, did you hear this thing happen? Oh, really? Okay. I look it up. Look at a few different sources. Okay, interesting. Most things that are important, you'll hear about it through word of mouth, or just every now and then glance at a newspaper as you're paying for getting something in a newsagent, or you can just go on the internet and just go, okay, news here, just look at it, type in a few keywords, or look at even something, I don't know what people do with Google News or whatever it is. I don't look at that, but you could just go through and see what the main things are, what's going on. It's good to keep aware of what's going on in general, but there's an awful lot of negative emotion apart from propaganda. There's also a lot of negative emotion in the news, and that's what they thrive off in order for sales. Largely, it seems, I've heard it argued quite persuasively that the high quality journalism, which used to balance that out a bit, was much more expensive. You need to have people doing investigative journalism, or the foreign desks, foreign bureau, having travel expenses and stuff. People trying to get to the bottom of things and present interesting people by giving awareness. Look at what we found out. That's much more expensive. and less reliable. Sometimes you do it and maybe people aren't that interested, than just the cheap, dirty, and effective disgust, anger, fear, and sadness kind of porn, which people can just put out there and people, it triggers those emotions. Reptilian brain takes over, and we buy the newspaper or we click on the article, and then the advertising money is made. If you are suffering from depression, I would recommend taking a detox from the news, from Twitter, from Facebook, and a lot of these, because a lot of social media things are the same thing. They want money from the advertisers, and their job is to keep you there as long as possible. And a lot of that they do through conflict and controversy, and so and it feels great. I dabble a little bit in some of these things, like, oh, what's going on Twitter or what's going on here, but very little, and I don't miss it. I feel great. Just like life was for millions of years, and what my life was for until this stuff came along. You don't need it. It's fine. There's a lot of other interesting things that we can do once we kind of set boundaries on our use of digital stuff, like the tech world. And it's great. I really appreciate the internet. Obviously, I'm doing this on the internet. It's wonderful, and I learn so much from the internet. But nonetheless, yeah, you need I think if you're suffering from depression, set strict limits on this. And you could even, if you have trouble doing that, maybe try phasing it out, a little bit, or say you have a rule: if I'm feeling blue, I don't use these things, and then maybe you're using it and you start to feel blue. All right, off we go, and then maybe you'll start to learn how to use it in a way where it's not triggering depression or anxiety or whatever. Okay. So yes, I think that would be good. And then because they've done studies with like teenage girls. There's been a massive increase in self-harm and suicides and all kinds of awful stuff among especially teenage girls who are very overly sensitive to the views of their peers, due to the rise of social media, and not just online bullying, but also, oh, everyone else looks more beautiful than me, or they look more, like they're having more fun than me, and then like you think, oh, I'm the only one who's an imposter. I'm the only one who's hiding all my bad days or my bad things. But then everyone else is hiding it too, and we all just think everyone else is happy and it's not me. And Jonathan Haidt, Haidt, he has written about this. What is he, a psychologist? I think. Not sure. Anyway, cool guy though. Wrote a book or two on this. So yeah, steer clear, I'd say. All right, what else? Lifestyle. That's the internet. Perhaps that's it. All right, we'll keep it kind of. Is there anything else? Sleep. Yeah, I mean, if of course, like having friendships and socializing, connecting with people, especially with people who will really listen to you. And something Jordan Peterson said that I think is kind of interesting and very probably important is people who will share your sorrows or something like this. Like when you're down and out, they want to see you, they don't want to they're not a fair weather friend. But then also they will celebrate your successes and people who elevate you, and that's not always possible. And sometimes those friends who are a bit down on their luck, but, we can help them and you might be able to resonate with them and just in terms of compassion and togetherness. But you want to make sure that it's not self-destructive or kind of like, because that's another dark thing, of course, like some part of us sometimes is addicted to suffering. I would say more specifically, it's actually our false self that we think we are is addicted to suffering. This we'll get into in a moment with spiritual kind of stuff. But you could say either if you believe in that sort of thing or you can see that kind of thing, then you could say it's the parasite or the false self is addicted to suffering and uses it to perpetuate these stories which allow it to think all day so that your soul is asleep. Or you could see it as like yourself. Can you, I don't know, perhaps you can notice that there is this part of, I definitely notice it myself, there's part of me which wants to suffer. It wants problems. It's satisfying in some weird, dark way. And I've met a lot of people who I've confessed that to, and they're like, yeah, me too. No one talks about it. But yeah. Anyway, so that's careful, self-sabotage and, self flagellation emotionally. Watch out for that, be honest with yourself and be careful not to be hurting yourself, just because it feels familiar or whatever it is, all right. So what was I going to say here? One more thing about lifestyle. Happy lifestyle. For depression. What was it? Oh, you must know because you're not thinking as well. You're kind of listening. Maybe you're thinking as well. I don't mean to offend you. Of course you're thinking. But yeah. I suppose it was something which you probably get the idea of anyway. Hopefully I finished the thought enough. Social, you're right, social life. Yeah. Oh yeah, I didn't finish the thought. Good. But people who, you want to make sure there's not people who are pulling you down. If the people where in general, they're like, pulling you down and you're feeling happy and they're not able to, they're kind of almost like the crab pulling the other crab back into the pot to boil together, then yeah, time to move on. And even if they're your friends, you can set limits. You've got the right to do that. And everyone has the right to do that. And so we're sovereign individual beings, and if you're with friends who don't really like the new you that you're trying to create, or they're not really interested in you kind of becoming healthy, and they might think, no, how could you be healthy with this messed up world? And maybe they're not taking responsibility for it, and for whatever reason, they're caught in the mire of, depression and maybe justifying it with reference to external things, which I would say is an excuse, unfortunately, and be very careful about that. Not to do it yourself or to fall for it with others. You can give them compassion, but kind of encourage that and be like, oh yeah, you're right. No, be like, yeah, I see what you mean, but you don't need to agree. And you might even tell them, if they say it a few times and you're a friend, I would say, well, what about this? Offer them the kindness of another perspective that it's a door. Hey, look, there's a door. Do you want to go through it? I think it leads to a lessening of suffering. And if they're like, fuck that door, man. But, all right, cool. I told you anyway. Don't say I didn't tell you. But yeah, then perhaps it's time to move on. And I think we only need really one good friend. That's all you need. And ultimately you can be that friend, but I think, we are social beings. And so one good friend is really all you need. That's worth 100, half friends or fake friends. And someone who will listen to you and be honest and allow you to think together. So you've got two different perspectives and you can kind of help each other, give each other the gift of an outside perspective. But social life is very important. And, if you can't find these people, finding some sort of way to connect with people, even on a more shallow level, is all good, and it's cool. But just be aware, like, is this raising me up or not? And ideally, it should be raising you up while you raise them up. And a rising tide lifts all ships or whatever, But yeah, social life. And okay. So, and of course, like love, like romance is a wonderful thing. But don't expect that to be the savior and to be solving all of your problems. I think if you're depressed, there's a good chance that it'll be compromising and sabotaging relationships. And so I think in order to be able to enjoy a relationship, it's not like the relationship is going to fix your depression. It's like fixing the depression will bring the relationship. So I'd say, sort yourself out first, become someone that people want to be with, and then lo and behold, people will be with you. But nonetheless, once you're at the point where you do have a relationship, or, whether that's after you've made a lot of progress on yourself, which it probably will be, or whether it's, earlier, that can be a wonderful thing, the communication there, and making love as often as possible, I think, is very good for you, keeping your things balanced. But yeah, mostly it comes from these things of self-sovereignty and taking responsibility for your own suffering, making healthy lifestyle choices. And in the darker moments, using these little tools, which we talked about. Now it's getting quite dark. Can you see the lights failing here? So onto the core. Okay, psychology and spirituality. Look, I think there's a lot of things which can cause us to feel negative and to apparently, if you have a memory which causes, if it's from more than 18 months ago and it's something like that, right? More than that, and it causes significant negative emotion, then it means there's something in that memory which you haven't yet integrated. You haven't learned the lesson yet. And that's why, your mind's like, hey, pal, hey, pal. And again, the mind is a wonderful thing when the soul is keeping keeping an eye on the mind, keeping a mind on the eye, then it's a wonderful thing. The perfect tool, perfect servant. But yeah, so, and that means, okay, voluntarily approach the memory and go, okay, what do I need to learn from this? Because like, apparently, your mind is like, or your evolutionary psychology is basically, we are descended from the people who were able to kind of have that little thing of like, okay, and we don't forget the mistakes. We learn from our mistakes. We're descended from those people who are able to adapt and have to internalize these things. And maybe it really bugs us, like that thing, I didn't do the right thing. And until we figure out like, okay, what it was I meant to learn so that I don't repeat that mistake again in the future, then it'll be messing with us. And also the soul can kind of cover up wounds. Like, okay, right now I need to walk a few miles. So I need to bandage up these wounds, and then maybe it's not right. The time isn't right and then once I get there, I can rest for a few days and I can take off, the bandages, whatever, and wash out the wounds. Then maybe I need to walk a bit more. I need to bandage them up again. So I think there's times when we have to cover up our depression and cover up and maybe strategically ignore some of our trauma. And that's fine. But I think in general, we need to be waiting for these opportunities and ready to take them. Luck is where preparation meets opportunity, says Seneca, I think. Cicero, is it? I don't know. But in order to kind of get to the root of these problems, and then that would diminish the negativity once we learn these lessons. However, and in general, some people can be more focused on the negative than others. It seems like the Big Five Big Five personality trait scale thing. Some people are higher in trait neuroticism, like kind of negativity, more or less, emotional negative affect. So some people are just going to be more tilted towards that, perhaps from ancestors also, like Germany or certain parts of the world, or Ireland maybe even. There might be more trauma. And so that might be turned into extreme work ethic or extreme, shenanigans and partying and music or something. Who knows? But I would say, we can deal with the things both in our own lives, learning lessons, and then culturally also, like the lessons of your people. Perhaps that will help. But even if we do all of these things, I think, and we learn how to be as positive as we can and to focus on the, control what you can control, be easy breezy with the rest. I can't control what people think of me, so that's fine. I'll just be the best self I can be, and whatever, and see the best in them, or whatever. There's, even if we take care of all these things psychologically, there's still the spiritual core of the issue, which is not just in the mind, but in the relationship between the consciousness and the mind. So you are consciousness, you are the soul, I am the soul, and So this is where some people will be like, "Oh, I don't know about all that," But I'll say it because I do believe this is the core of the issue, and you can probably I think you can transcend depression and without this spiritual stuff. However, you will not be able to transcend suffering completely, and you will still suffer probably, regular, sadness and frustration, that kind of thing. Whereas with the spiritual knowledge, which I'm about to just mention briefly, you could look at episode 7, Awakening, for kind of more detail about this. Basically, I think you can massively diminish the intensity and the regularity and the duration of the negative parts of the wave form of your emotions. And eventually you can completely end the negativity, where you will have negative emotions sometimes, but it won't it won't be having the same, what could we say? It won't be there, so ever present. Well, not just that. It'd be like you can have them, but you've got this. They're surrounded by this sense of peace, and that everything's happening exactly as it's meant to happen. So, and that fundamentally changes the nature of those. It's no longer really what we would call sadness or grief or anything, or it would be held in the arms of this peace. So, what is the gist of this? Because it's getting nice and gloomy and dark here, as we can see if you're watching the video. Basically, watch your mind and notice that you are not the mind. You are here, so that's good. Who are you? Who am I? Well, that's a great question. But one thing first is just to know, I guess more important than that probably, is that I am. I do exist. You do exist, right? That's why you can think about this. That's why you can hear me and go, is that right? Is that true? Whatever. Like, the fact that any of this can be discussed or thought about means someone is here to witness it. Like, first person shooter, that is your life, except you're not holding a rifle, you got a microphone in front of your face, or whatever it is, you got your nose in front of your face, and so here we are. And yet you can observe, you can have meditation or yoga, etc., and or certain plant medicines or psychedelics, which will make it very clear to you this, and that's one of the biggest benefits from them. Is I wouldn't recommend them for everyone at all, but for more mindful people, definitely it can be used to help you connect to and understand this timelessness, entering the present moment, exiting your mind, where you can just be embodied in this presence, this physical presence of here I am, and you can understand that you are not thoughts. And then you can actually be creative with your mind. You can turn it on and off at will, thinking, with training. I'm not totally there yet, but I can do it a little bit, which is amazing, very fun, and useful. But so that's the core of it. And understanding that basically it seems when we believe we are the mind, we're in a sort of dream state, okay? And that you could call the ego or the false self. We believe we are this person in the body and with this past and future, but actually it's kind of like a narrative. It's just made of ideas. It's not real. The body's here and it's one with the environment, just like the tree, drops an acorn, which turns into a tree, which drops an acorn, and it's all one thing. It's all one big flow of life. There's not two different trees, two different acorns. It's all just one thing flowing, and so is all of creation, And so we're actually one with all of this, and that consciousness that you are is actually the universe. There's, spoiler alert. And so here we are, but to keep things practical, right? Basically, there is this false self we think we are, and that it lives off of problem solving. Basically, it's always solving problems and trying to move forward, and that's very useful in life. That got us here, obviously. But now we're advanced enough to see, okay, this isn't actually totally real. It's like a character, that we have been. It's like Leonardo DiCaprio is totally all in, believing he's Jack off Titanic, and then he's going, "Oh, actually, I'm Leo." In the same way, perhaps the real Leonardo DiCaprio can realize, like, "Oh my God, I'm actually the universe." And that's what Jim Carrey talks about, that saying that Jim Carrey was just another character. Then he realized that eventually. But yeah, so the problem, seeing life as a problem, is inherent in the ego. And so once we're ready, and not a moment earlier, and that's a good thing, if it's not here, then okay, then we're not ready yet. We still need to learn some things, like me, I guess. That when we're ready, we will be able to see that we'll be able to transcend suffering completely and just see that everything is perfect. But it requires this awareness of that the thoughts in my head are not me, and that here I am. And some things might seem pretty weird and unfamiliar and strange, but actually beautiful and very, very peaceful once you connect to it. And that it's a process of kind of increasing trust with the universe. But eventually, at the end of that, is the promised land of just complete peace. So anyway, I wish you very well on the path, my dear brothers and sisters. And it's a bit dark and gloomy here now, but I hope you can also likewise see with me the glowing light of love. All right. See you next time.